Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 2, Unit 7.1, 7.4 review. Today we're going to be talking about factoring either four-term polynomials, binomials, or trinomials. Remember, each one has its own set of rules, so we got to make sure to check which one it is before we get started. Okay? Now, I'm just going to be doing the evens in class. If you have questions about any of the odds, please come see Miss Carranza or myself. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. So, looking at the first one, number 2. What do we do? Well, I want to take out the GCF. It's a binomial. First thing we do for all of them is check to see if there's a GCF, and there is. Okay, our leading coefficient's negative, so my GCF is negative. The only number that goes into both 50 and 10 is 10. Now I want to look, do they both have n's? They do. And which one is smaller? The n squared is. So n squared, n squared. And since they both, remember, both of them have to have m's and they don't. So that's not part of my GCF. Now, the GCF goes out front. Don't be a math magician. Don't make it disappear. Okay? And now we divide. Negative 10 divided by, or negative 50 divided by negative 10 is a positive 5. N cubed divided by n squared is n m cubed. And now the back, we have a negative divided by negative, which is a positive. 10 divided by 10 is 1, and n squared divided by n squared is 1. So our final answer is negative 10n squared times 5n m3 plus 1. All right, number 4. You need to ask yourself, is there a GCF? And there's not. So if there's not, we're just going to draw the line down the middle. Okay. And now we're going to factor out the first group, and then we'll factor out the second group. So what's the GCF of the first group? Well, they both have x's. And which one's smaller? The squared. So the x squared comes out front, and we're left with x plus 2. Okay, and now the yellow group. What's the GCF? Well, I can take a 5 out of both of those. So the 5 comes out front, and then we're left with x plus 2. And remember, this is your check. The x plus 2 and the x plus 2 proves that you did it right. So that is one of the binomials. And then our second binomial is the x squared plus 5. And it can be written in any order. That part doesn't matter. Okay? Just make sure that you get both of those down. Okay, number 6. Is there a GCF? Nope, nothing we can do. Okay, so once again, we're going to break them down into the two groups. And the first one, we can factor out a b squared. So the b squared comes out front, and we're left with 3b plus 4. What's the GCF of the back? Okay, well, I can take out a positive 2, so the 2 comes out front, and we're left with 3b plus 4. And here's our check to make sure we did it right. We did. The 3b plus 4 is one binomial, and then the b squared plus 2 is our other one. All right, number 8. Remember, the first thing we always check, is there a GCF? and we can factor out a 3. So the 3 comes out front, and we're left with x squared minus 8x plus 7. Okay? And now the next thing that we would do is we would do a times c, the 1 times 7, and I want to know what number multiplies to get to 7 and adds to get to negative 8. Is there a set that does that? And there is. It's negative 1 and negative 7. When you multiply it, it turns to a positive, and when you add it, it stays negative. And the nice thing is since our leading coefficient is 1 right now, we can do the shortcut. Okay, so since I'm doing the shortcut, I'm just going to bring that 3 down, and then I'm going to break it up into our 2 binomials. Each of them get an x, and then the 2 binomials are x minus 1 and x minus 7. Okay. Number 10. Is there a GCF? No, there's nothing that they all have in common. So what I would do is we would start with 3 times 12, which is 36. 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Are there numbers that multiply to get to negative 36? I'm saying it's negative because 3 times negative 12 gives us negative 36 and adds up to get to 16. And I see a set. Okay. Do you see the 2 and the 18? Negative 2 times 18 gives us negative 36, and negative 2 plus 18 gives us 16. Now, we cannot do the shortcut because our leading coefficient is 3. So this is where we split the middle term. We have 3x squared minus 2xy plus 18xy minus 12y squared. Okay? And now it's just like the ones we did before, where we have our 2 groups and we take the GCF out of each one. So the GCF of 3x squared and negative 2xy is x. The GCF comes out front, and then we're left with 3x minus 2y. And the GCF of the back, the gray, we can take out a 6, but we can also take out a y. So the 6y comes out front, and then when we divide, we get 3x minus 2y. And you always want to check, did I do it right? And we did. So our 2 binomials are the 3x minus 2y, which were the 2 that were matching, and then our GCFs, this x plus 6y. And that's our final answer. Okay, number 12. Is there a GCF? You should always be asking yourself that first. And there is. We can factor out a 5. The 5 comes out front, and we're left with 20 divided by 5 is 4, 4b squared, plus 80 divided by 5. Anybody got it? Should be 16b, plus 75 divided by 5 would be 15. Okay? And now the next thing we would do, 4 times 15, which gives us 60, and you'd be looking for numbers that multiply to get to 60 and add to get to 16. Do you guys know what they are? Should just be 6 and 10. So when we split the middle term, since we're splitting the middle term, I don't want to lose this 5. So I'm going to make sure to bring it all the way down into my final answer. Okay? So I'm splitting that middle term to 4b squared plus 6b plus 10b plus 15. And then we have our two groups. Okay, the GCF of the first group is 2b. So the 2b comes out front, and we're left with 2b plus 3. And then what's the GCF of the back? I got a 5. And then we get 2b plus 3, which is great because those two binomials match up, which means we did that right. 2b plus 3. And then my second binomial was the GCFs, the 2b plus 5. Remember, don't be a math magician. Don't make that 5 that we factored out disappear. Okay, number 14. Number 14 is a binomial. And when it's a binomial, there are special things that we can do. We always want to check, is there a GCF? And in this case, there's not. So, is it subtraction? Yeah, we already asked ourselves if it's a binomial. Next, can I square root everything? Yeah, we can. I can square root both of those. Okay, so the square root of 121k squared, well, the square root of 121 is 11, and the square root of k squared is k. And remember, one's a positive, one's a negative. It doesn't matter which is which. Okay, and then I'm going to take the square root of 9m squared. The square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of m squared is m. And then we get our final answer of 11k plus 3m times 11k minus 3m. Okay, number 16. Is there a GCF? Don't be saying no. Yeah, there is a GCF, guys. We can factor out a 4. The 4 comes out in front, and we're left with 4n squared minus 9. Now, what's inside? Is it still a binomial? Yep. Is it subtraction? Yep. And can I square root everything? Yep. Everything's perfect squares inside. So the 4 stays out front. 4n squared, the square root of that would be 2n. We have a plus and a minus, and the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, and the last one, right? Okay. So, is there a GCF? Yes. Okay, there's a 2. We can factor out the 2, and we're left with n squared minus 25. Now, is it a binomial? Yep. Is it subtraction? Yep. Can I square root everything? Yeah. Okay. So the 2 stays out front. N squared, the square root of that is n. And the square root of 25 is 5. And there you go. That's your final answer. Now, if you have any questions on any of the evens, we just did the evens, but even if you still do, or any of the odds, come and see Miss Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, this is Mr. Grice signing off for Algebra 2, Chapter 7.1, 7.4 review. Thanks for watching.